name is Lisa Topete, and I have been doing vegan cooking schools for quite a few years now. Never on Zoom though. So this is the first time that I'm able to do this on Zoom. So my husband is my wonderful cameraman. And if you have questions, he has another little link up to see the chat that as we go through this, we can answer questions and also just give any little tips as we begin. So I know that we'll be putting the first recipe in the chat. And the very first recipe we're going to do is dessert, because why not, right? Dessert first, and as that's going to be in the freezer as soon as we're done, we'll go through the next two recipes. And I'm excited to share this with you. It's different doing it without seeing your faces, so I'm going to trust that everything, if you have questions, you just put them in the chat. I love to get feedback. So the first recipe we're going to do is actually called Dark Chocolate Peppermint Bark. Now, I want to encourage you at the beginning that if chocolate is something you're not really eating and you want a good substitute, a really good substitute is carob. Carob is, I have a carob powder here. You can get it at any local grocery that's like a Whole Foods grocer. So you can also order it on Amazon. I love Amazon to get those specialty items. So in place of the chocolate, you can do carob very easily. And I think adding in the peppermint extract also gives it a really nice flavor. So we've done both, but today we're going to stick with some chocolate chips. The chocolate chips we're using are called the Enjoy Life mini chips, and they are free of everything, 14 allergens, free of them. So they are vegan chocolate chips. And generally at the beginning, what you want to do is melt your chocolate chips in, the recipe says, in a double boiler, now broiler. So if you don't have a double broiler, I actually don't, you can do a little different of a method, and that would be to put boiling water in one of these pots, and then you would put the chocolate chips in here, or your carob chips on top, and then just slowly stir it and it will melt down really well. Because we are not at a stove, I went ahead and melted it ahead of time. Can you see that? Pretty good? Yeah? Raise it up. There it is. And what we're going to do is, as soon as it's melted, you're going to want to add in, it's a half a teaspoon of peppermint extract. Now, if you really like the peppermint taste, you can do much more. I stick with the half. I've gone a little crazy when I've made this the past few Christmases, and I did a little too much. So when people ate it, it was like more of a breath mint than peppermint bark. So we're going to stick with half a teaspoon of peppermint extract, and you're just going to mix it in. And it turns into a really nice consistency. From there, grab a piece of parchment paper and a cooking tray. And all you're going to do next is just pour this. Oh, doesn't that look so yummy? Oh, it looks so delicious. It tastes as good as it looks. And you're going to just pour it all right in the center. I like to work from the center out. And as soon as you have it all on there, we're just going to act like we're chocolatiers and that we are professional chefs here. And we're going to spread this evenly across. Now, the thinner you can get it on the cookie tray, okay? The thinner you can get it on the cookie tray, that will be the size of your pieces. So I do my best to really spread it across as best I can. Here we go. Let me do this a little more. And you can do a bigger cookie sheet if you want. And as soon as you have it all to where you want it, nice and beautiful, there we go. As soon as you have that all there, you're going to take your crushed candy canes. Now the recipe said about 4 of them. Ours are pre-crushed, and you can actually get them crushed as well. And what you're going to do is you are just simply going to sprinkle it across the top. And this is your peppermint bark. You can do as little or as much peppermint crushed candy cane as you want. So we're going to spread it across the top here. Across the top. Should I do more? I think someone said yes, or nodded their head. I'm guessing, right? So we're going to put a little here. And then this is literally the quickest, and you'll look really fancy at any kind of Christmas gathering that you go to. And you know what? It's so simple. You can eat just a few pieces, and it's a pretty good alternative to some other desserts that I know can be really full of different things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this in the freezer, and while it's crisping up so that we can see it broken into pieces at the end, we'll work on our next recipe. So give me one quick second. All right, so while that's in the freezer, we're gonna move on to our next recipe. So if you want, you can follow along, pull up the homemade vegetarian chili. Homemade vegetarian chili. I'm gonna pull up the ingredients for that. And as I pull those up, if you have any questions on the peppermint bark, and I kind of set up for the next thing, if you have any questions on the peppermint bark, I wanna encourage you to just put them in the chat or any comments, whether you think that's amazing or absolutely horrifying. No, I'm kidding. No one thinks it's horrifying. Feel free to put anything in there as I set up here for our next little recipe. I think I have most of what we need right here. All right. So for our next recipe, this one is really simple and it's getting colder. I'll tell you something. I live in sunny Southern California. So what is cold is not considered cold here. I think what is our low? 50s? 56?
60.
Oh, it's in the 60s. I know. Some of you are like, what? So that is cold for us. And I'm excited when it gets cold because I love making soups and different things. Chili is one of the easiest things to go transitioning from a meat-eating diet into a plant-based diet. I have been plant-based since 2014, and it was a big change for me, a really big change. But chili was something that kind of was similar to something I was eating before. And I think that cooking can be healthy and complicated or healthy and simple. So we're gonna stick with the simple. What we're gonna do is you would start, and I pre-sauteed everything right before this presentation. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna start in your Dutch oven. A Dutch oven, you're gonna just put 2 tablespoons of your choice of oil. This one says extra virgin, and that's what I've chosen to use. And you're gonna let it get hot and simmer up until it's like starting to shimmer, almost this beautiful thing. And that's telling you, I'm ready for you onions, okay? So the next thing we're gonna put in is 1 medium red onion. And this I asked my husband if I could bring in our portable camping stove. And he said, no, that's propane inside the house. So we decided that I would pre-saute this beforehand so that each of us, so that our house would be safe too. Next, you're gonna do 1 large red bell pepper. Now this right here, whenever a recipe requires chopped ingredients, I kind of shudder because I know I'm gonna stand at the cutting board and chop quite a few ingredients. So what I like to do is use a food processor. If you have one, just take the time to pull it out and put it together, and it is so much faster. Next, we're gonna do our carrots. From there, we'll add in our celery. And all of this, these 2 things, these 4 items, ingredients, you're gonna stir up and saute until it's translucent. Now, I have done this ahead of time. These are sauteed, okay? So all of this is pre-sauteed. Those onions are a nice translucent color. Now, how many of you like onion? Put a 1 in the chat if you like onion. I want to see some 1s in the chat if you like onion. And now put a 2 in the chat if you don't like onion. Now, here's the nice thing about chili. You don't have to put the onion if you don't want to. I'll tell you a funny story. You ready? For 4 years, I've been married now. 4 years. And it was just a few months ago that my husband realized how little onion is in our food. And that's because I'm with the people who put it 2. I'm not a huge fan of onion. And he said, wait a second. I feel like I've been missing onion so much without realizing it. So I've committed to adding onion into some of our recipes, starting with this chili that we'll eat after. So after you have all your sauteed vegetables for about 7 to 8 minutes, you're gonna add in your next ingredients. Now right here, we have all of our seasonings, okay? So next thing we're gonna do is as you saute, you're gonna add in your salt. Kind of get that in there with those sauteed vegetables. As soon as that's all done, as this is going, we're now gonna add in our garlic. Now I like garlic. I don't mind that one bit. Did we get any 1s or 2s in there? We'll have to take a vote after and see if this crowd likes onion or not. After that, you're gonna go ahead and add in just the rest of your ingredients. You're gonna do your cumin, your chili powder. All of this is gonna add in really nicely, make it delicious. From there, we're gonna go ahead and add in our other ingredients. We have smoked paprika. And that gives it a little different flavor than just regular paprika. Some dried oregano. And this is so yummy. So as soon as that's all in, our recipe tells us just to cook it for a minute until it's fragrant. Kind of just allows all those flavors to seep together. We're gonna finish that. I hope you guys have a copy of the recipes. That's really nice to have on hand. Now we're gonna add in what will bulk up our chili. So this is what you're gonna have, what it's gonna look like as soon as you have all those spices in there and those vegetables. Now what you're gonna do next is just add in some pretty delicious ingredients, okay? You're gonna add in either 1 large can or 2 cans of diced tomatoes. You know, for chili, one really good flavor is Rotel. So that would be a mixture of tomatoes and green chilies, but you can stick with regular diced tomatoes as well. We're gonna put some diced tomato in there. From there, we are going to add in our next few things. If you want to use different beans, you can. We're going to add in our 2 cans of black beans. Make sure to rinse them. Does anyone know why we rinse them? Trivia question. You can unmute yourself since I can't hear you. Why do we rinse the black beans? Going once, going twice. We rinse the black beans because if you don't, that's what gives you gas. So we're just being honest here. Rinse your black beans. You'll have a much happier Christmas season. Okay, the next thing you're gonna put in is 1 can of pinto beans. And again, feel free to add the beans that you want. The beans that you want are totally up to you. I am Hispanic, I'm Mexican. So to me, the idea of many extra beans, I'm okay with it. Awesome. From there, you guys are gonna add in 2 cups of vegetable broth or water. Vegetable broth just gives it a little bit of a stronger flavor. And that is what we're going for. We're gonna let this go on here. All right. From there, once this is all in here, we're gonna add in a few bay leaves. And this is just gonna simmer on top of the stove, on top of your stove for just a little bit. So here's the plan. Ready for the plan? While I put this on the stove, I'm going to teach you how to make the best vegan nacho cheese. It's gonna blow your mind. I've tried, oh my goodness, how many recipes of nacho cheese have I tried?
102.
My husband said 102 to be exact. No, many recipes, and this by far is the best recipe for vegan nacho cheese that I have ever found. So I'm gonna put this on the stove to simmer. We'll garnish it at the end with our other toppings and we'll see the peppermint bark. So I'll be right back. I wish there was some sort of elevator music that would play right now.
I think your husband should sing for us.
What did you say? What was that?
Your husband should sing for us.
Oh, my husband. You know, my husband is a preacher, but not a singer. He's okay with that. He would tell people in front of him sitting at church that he sings at the top. He lifts his voice to the Lord, right? And he told them, if you want to move, I won't feel bad. So he's very honest about his singing abilities. The next thing we're going to go ahead.
We're getting other requests in the chat for him to sing.
Oh, he's just smiling and saying, I'll stick to the cameraman word. So in the chat, we're going to put in our next recipe while that's going, and we're going to go to a simmer. We're going to make the vegan nacho cheese. I am most excited about this recipe because one of the things that a lot of people who are going completely to a plant-based diet that they miss is cheese. And nacho cheese in particular is very difficult to replicate. This by far is the best recipe for vegan nacho cheese that I've found. So the best encouragement I have for you is to have a really good blender, a high-powered blender, Vitamix, Blendtec, one that can really do some good work. If you're going plant-based, invest in a good blender. I would say I use this more than any other item in my kitchen in order to do some really good recipes. So I'm going to pull up the ingredients here. Pull up my ingredients while this is waiting. Are there any questions? Maybe in the chat there, if you have one, let me know. Okay. We're going to begin the best vegan nacho cheese you could ever imagine. So now the first thing you're going to do is rinse your raw cashews under warm water or hot water for 5 minutes. I've pre-soaked these. It's a 1/4 cup. And this is important because this will also help your blender. Now, if you don't have a high-powered blender, you can still make this. The biggest thing is making sure your cashews are soft. So soak them and even soak them overnight. You can soak them and then in the morning drain the water. And those cashews will blend up really nicely if you haven't quite yet been able to get a high-powered blender. So I understand that. It took me a little bit before I did that. So after you are going to soak your cashews, you're going to place the rinsed cashews in the blender and just 1 cup of the water. You're not going to add all the water yet. So we have 2 cups of water right here. I'm going to add 1 cup, okay? So 1 cup of water. Okay, there's 1 cup of water in there. And then the nice thing about this recipe is it says, pour in all other remaining ingredients. I love recipes like that, right? Where it's not like blend, stop, add. Okay, that's too complicated. So the nice thing is you can just add the rest of the ingredients. So we're just going to run down the list. The next thing is 2 ounces or a 1/4 cup of canned pimentos. Pimentos, a lot of people, if you can't find pimentos at the grocery store, you can also do like canned roasted red bell peppers. That will also, the big thing with pimentos is it's going to give it a nice color. So yes, it adds some flavor, but more than anything, it gives it good color. So we're going to add in our pimentos. The next thing we're going to add is a 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast. When I first started eating plant-based and I heard about yeast flakes, I thought it was so strange. Over time, now I eat it in everything, but it gives it a nice nutty, cheesy flavor. So the yeast flakes, you could put a 1/4 cup like it says, then you could add a little extra. That's usually what I do. So we'll add in a little extra yeast flakes. From there, we are going to add in cornstarch. Now this is what's going to be that helps thicken it. If you want to use flour, you can, but I think the recipe says to increase it by, I think, a tablespoon. Yes, or actually tapioca flour. Make sure to increase it. The next thing you're going to do is 2 tablespoons of vegan butter or margarine. This is important. Makes it nice and creamy, okay? So we're going to add in our butter. Our next thing is white or light miso paste, 1 tablespoon. This is like a super important ingredient, but it is a specialty one. So you can order it on Amazon or go to places like Sprouts, Whole Foods, Lassen's. There's all the different kinds. This is what it is. Funny story. My husband, he likes to clean the fridge out. Okay. In our relationship, it's a little not typical, but he's more of the perfectionist. I'm not. I feel it takes too much work, but he likes things orderly. So he'll clean out the fridge regularly. And I remember buying a big thing of this miso, and it lasts a very long time. You use very little, and I make vegan cheese that you actually can slice, and you need this. And so I bought this, and then the next day I went to go make cheese, and I found it was gone. And I asked my husband, where did that go? And he said, oh, I thought that was old. I just threw it away. That happened twice before finally the 3rd one was redeemed, and I said, don't throw this away. It lasts, and I need it for all of our cheese recipes. So white miso paste, very important, and you can use it in a number of cheese recipes. This recipe from veganblueberry.com, any of their cheese recipes are superb. Write down that website. If you want to start trying to stop eating regular cheese and switching over, their cheese is incredible, okay? So all of the cheeses from veganblueberry.com are so good. From there, we're going to do the rest of our stuff. Seasoned salt, onion powder, make sure that gets in there. Garlic powder, and then we have some apple cider vinegar, gives it a nice little flavor. And then we have the cayenne for those who want the cayenne. My husband likes spicy food, and I do too. I didn't before I married him, but now I love it. So we are going to now just blend this until it is smooth. So you might cover your ears.
Oh, that was a job.
So from there, after this is completely smooth, a really good way to check if it's smooth is just to rub it
You
between
gonna
your
eliminate
fingers.
cheese?
It should feel silky, okay? So after that, you're
Bernie,
gonna
would you do me a favor?
I'm getting
No,
some either question
it's
or some
okay.
feedback. Okay, so afterwards, you're gonna pour this in here, and that remaining 1 cup of water, you want to add it in now. And this is going to help with the thickening process so that it doesn't get too thick. It's going to end up looking like this, pretty runny. And what you're going to do is set this on the stove on medium heat, medium to low, and just let it kind of thicken. And it gets really nice in its consistency, just like nacho cheese. So I'm going to put this on the stove. We're going to bring out the peppermint bark and the chili, and hopefully by then it's thickened. We'll see how it goes with time. And the magic ingredient that we'll do later is a can of Rotel. This will really make the vegan nacho cheese taste incredible. This is Rotel, diced tomatoes and green chilies. Can they see that, Mark? Diced tomatoes with green chilies. I always have that on standby in the kitchen. So I'm going to put this on the stove. Hopefully it'll thicken quickly. And then we will look at our next 2 recipes that we've finished. You can show me. My husband put on some music in between since he won't be singing. So we have our peppermint bark. It's been in the freezer for just a short time. Can you see this? The peppermint bark. And all you're gonna do now, can you see that? Look how beautiful. It's nice and cold. All you're gonna do now is just start to break it. And when you're done, you're gonna put it back into either Ziplocs or a mason jar. It makes a really beautiful present. And you're just going to put these pieces of peppermint bark in, and this is it. You just eat it, just like this. Oh my goodness, it's so perfect. So you want to use this, either you can use it as a gift or taking it to a Christmas party, or honestly, just eat it at home. It's wonderful. So you're gonna break it up, and as soon as that's done, your peppermint bark is finished. This is it, so simple. Let me grab the chili and a few other things, and we're going to wrap it up.
And the cool thing about it is that it lasts forever since it sits in the freezer. So I don't think any of you guys have come over to our house to eat, so it doesn't matter if I say this, but sometimes I'll take it out after a meal and it's been sitting in the freezer for like 6 months, 7 months, and no one knows, and everyone enjoys it.
Remember that when we do come over for lunch.
If you have peppermint bark and it's like, you know, March or April, you know where it came from.
All right, so our chili has been sitting. Can you move that bowl real fast for me? Maybe I can just set it on here for a quick second. Woo, we got it. You need a few helpers. At a cooking school, you usually have a team. All right. Our chili is looking super delicious. And with the chili, once it's done, oh man, I wish you guys could smell it. Too bad Zoom doesn't have a smell feature, right? You might get one eventually. If you are transitioning from a meat-based diet to be trying to be plant-based, there are meat substitutes. I think one of the struggles is that sometimes people eat a lot of the meat substitutes even after they've become plant-based, and they're designed to help you transition away from eating meat. But even I have a tendency to stick with it. So if you're transitioning, you can put a few of those of the plant-based meats in the chili, and that does make it really taste really well. Or if you're cooking this for people who aren't vegetarian or vegan or plant-based, if they aren't and you add that in, it is a really good help in order to transition. My family is not plant-based, and I would cook for them. And at the beginning of my journey, they could tell it was definitely not a regular chili. But over time, I've been able to trick them. And I tell them after. I don't not tell them. I just say, that was vegan. And they get really surprised. For the chili, you could garnish it with some cilantro. Honestly, if you want to say this is Christmas chili, just put some red and some green in there. You put some avocado. Oh, it looks so delicious. Do you guys like avocado? Might as well put the whole thing. And then you can squeeze some lime into the main one. It says about a teaspoon. I like lime. I might even just put it on top here. Brings out all the flavors and kind of brings them together. And then I'm going to go grab our cheese, and hopefully it's thickened up enough, but that's going to make it taste wonderful. All right, so our cheese is really cooperating. Can you see it? So it's thickened up really nicely. Doesn't that look delicious? And I think the thing I can never neglect is to add the Rotel. Now the Rotel is completely optional, but adding it in is just so good. So I'm gonna mix this in here. Oh, look how pretty that flavor, that color is. It looks just like nacho cheese. And I'll tell you something, I even let it get slightly thicker, but because of our coordinating of the 3 recipes, I'm gonna leave it just like this. You might hear my little boy in the background. Just like that. And this, you're gonna just drizzle over the top. Ooh, hoo, hoo. Let me tell you, I wish you all were here at my house to try this chili. Unbelievable. You might even add a little more avocado just for fun. And a little more cilantro. Garnish. And honestly, all of these meals are so simple and so easy to make. I hope you try them. And if there's only one that you can try the nacho cheese. It's incredible. You can eat it with tortilla chips. I make frozen burritos and I put that inside with the beans and rice, and it makes it just takes it to another level. So I hope you enjoyed these recipes. Again, here's the chili and the cheese. And of course, we had our wonderful peppermint bark. And I hope that you're able to take some time and make one of the recipes. And, you know, if you are able to make it, definitely share, send pictures so that we can see it. I love these recipes and I hope you do too. So with that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. I hope you enjoyed them. Or I hope you enjoyed the recipes and that it was a good enough presentation that you could see on Zoom. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Lisa. It was
Thank
a
you.
wonderful presentation.
Yes.
We have a
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions that
Okay,
came in
Great.
if you can help us read them.
yeah. So we have one person asking, can you refrigerate the nacho cheese?
Oh, good question. So to answer it, yes, I make it in big batches. I'll refrigerate some and I even freeze it. When I was pregnant, I wanted to not cook my goal was 3 months after he was born. So I batch cooked so many meals. And because I love the cheese so much, I ended up putting it in quart-sized Ziplocs and just freezing it. And then as a meal would come where I was like, man, this is a great topping for so many things. Then I would just put it in the sink inside of another Ziploc and let it thaw out with some hot water running over it. So yes, you can refrigerate it and you can freeze it. Refrigerating, I would say it's usually about 5 to 7 days in the fridge, and then the freezer, if you have a deep freeze, up to 6 months. Regular freezer, 3 months.
Okay, and can you substitute coconut oil for the butter in the nacho cheese?
You might not, it might not be as creamy. I know it would be less fatty. So if you wanted to, I don't think it will make the recipe fall apart. I've never done it. It might be a little different in consistency, but I think it could work.
Okay, and there's one more question about the nutritional yeast. I'm not finding it again. Does anybody else have that? I don't see it.
Maybe they can ask
I
it.
think it said the nutritional yeast was preventing the absorption of B6 in the stomach.
I
Oh,
don't know.
preventing the absorption of vitamin B6, was it, in the stomach?
Yeah, I have never
I
seen
think that's
any,
what it said.
I have never seen any indication of that. So maybe the person who thinks that's an issue may share with us, you know, and then
Yeah,
we can look at the.
As far as nutritional yeast, I mean, a lot of it used in moderation, I suppose, but there's not too many strong studies. I would say this: if you don't want to use it, I don't think it'll tear the recipe apart either. In fact, many times I would not use nutritional yeast because it was so strange to me. It may not have as much of a nutty or cheesy flavor, but it would definitely stay the same color and have a really good looking texture. So if that's something you want to omit, I definitely think you could.
I just wanted to add the nutritional yeast, the yeast is deactivated. So it's not the same yeast, you know, that is used in bread, you know, things that ferment. The yeast is pre-deactivated.
I think that's it for our questions. So thank you so much, Lisa. This was so
Thank you
much
for having
fun.
me.
And it's incredible that you cooked an entire meal with dessert in 30 minutes. So
we had it plated just in time. So.
right. Our last question is, what's your address? Because we're all heading over.
Absolutely.
Oh, look at
Well,
the
this is my son. My husband likes children. And you know, as I I don't want to take too much time. Do you want to? Okay.
We'd
I don't
love
wanna
to
take
meet
too much
him.
time, but a quick little just testimony. You know, eating plant-based is a big change. My son was actually born with special needs, and after going through a number of different things for children who have Down syndrome, they're not even connected to the Adventist Church, all shared that a diet free of dairy, free of refined sugars and certain things. So basically, the way that we've been eating, my son can eat, and it was a relief to know that, you know what, this is a really good route for you to take, even just adding in more vegetables. And it takes time. I've been a meat eater most of my life, and so transitioning was a big deal. But God has really blessed us, and we're thankful that the way that we eat is the way that our son is the best optimal way for him as well. So thank you so much for having us. It was a pleasure, and I'm glad I was able to try this on Zoom. Now we know how it works.
It worked great. Thank you so much, Lisa. And also to your husband, thank you. And for your son too, for popping in. It was great to meet him. So thank you very much. We really appreciated this.
If you guys have any questions or want to, there's an Instagram that you can follow, everyday_Topete, my last name. So everyday_Topete. And you can ask me any questions there. I'm happy to share. So thanks so much.
Sounds great. And we'd love for you to join our Facebook group on Facebook too. So we can interact with you there. And we hope to see some pictures of your chili and nacho cheese posted on Facebook.
Thanks so much.
So,
have a great day.
You too. Thank you.